All right, friends and neighbors, welcome back. I was thinking about the FreePBX build that I did earlier, and I had a lot of screenshots on slides and things like that, and it doesn't necessarily capture everything that you run into in a build like that. So I thought I would go ahead and do another FreePBX build, but this time in real time. So everything that you see is going to happen, as I build it. And the reason that I'm also going to do this is because we're going to do SIP trunks later on, and so it's nice to have a couple of PBXs to do that with. And so, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and jump into the build? Now, as a reminder, this is the topology that we're going to have, or at least that we're starting with. So this is the build right here, the machine. Now, actually, that's going to be in a virtual machine. And so we'll do that, and I'll explain a little bit about the virtual machine settings before we dive in. And then I've got another virtual machine that I'm going to use to manage it. Remember that the way that we actually connect to FreePBX is through the web interface. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and then we'll have SIP clients at some point, probably not in this video, but we'll eventually have SIP clients connecting to our SIP server, FreePBX. All right, so let's go take a look at our virtual machines. So as you can see, I've got a whole bunch of virtual machines, and the only thing that I've done in preparation for this video is that I just started an Ubuntu virtual machine that I'm going to use to manage. And that just saves me a little bit of time on the video. Now, the only time that I'll slow this video or cut stuff is that if we're sitting here waiting for some install portion to be completed, so it doesn't go on for too long. So what I'm going to do is a new virtual machine. Now, if you'll see that the Ubuntu machine that's running here is connected to a NAT network, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one, and we'll call this FreePBX, I don't know, 3 maybe. Now we got to select an ISO image, and so I've got a couple ready to go here, and so this is the FreePBX build that we're going to use, and that'll do it. Now I'm going to update the settings for this, and the stuff that I want to really check here is I want to make sure that my network is the same, so I'm going to do the NAT network here, and we will say, well, we're going to allow everything right now. And then we'll make sure also that in terms of storage that we have our ISO attached, and it doesn't look like it, so we're going to make sure that we do that. There we go. And I think that does it. So really the only changes to the VM to get started here will be making sure that the ISO is attached so that we can do the install, and that we're on the same network as the management VM. All right, so let's go ahead and start this. See that we're powering up over here, and we should get a console in a minute. Now I've got, this is on my machine. This is not what I would do in the actual, on a server class machine or something like that. Get rid of this. Hopefully y'all can see this in the video. And I'm doing a FreePBX 16 installation. It's just their recommended, so I'm just going to follow that. I'm going to do graphical installation output to VGA. Sure, that sounds pretty good. And FreePBX stamp. So this is pretty straightforward, right? We don't have a whole lot of decisions to make. And remember that once the FreePBX install is completed, then really I'm going to go and browse to it and see if all my modules are set up and everything else. And all that we really care about is that, I can eventually get a management interface up that, allows me to connect SIP clients. Now, the FreePBX install is not one that I'm going to do, I'm not going to do a Linux install and then install FreePBX on top of that, although I could. We're just going to take the ISO that is FreePBX. So everything comes down with FreePBX, and then you're pretty much ready to go with your build. And so once this is, the standard install stuff for any Linux distro. So we'll go ahead and set up a couple of these. I can get my mouse to behave. Well, the mouse is acting pretty funky here, so we're going to give it a chance to finish the starting package installation process. Remember that this is just my laptop, so I have another VM running plus Camtasia running here, so we're taking a lot of resources. Well, since the mouse is messing up, we'll see if we can't tab around here. That does the root password. I have no other tasks to do. Normally, we might do things like, our partitions and so on, and whether or not the network adapter is going to be connected. But the FreePBX just wants to do its thing here, so we'll just let it. You can see that we're at 630 of 739 packages. So this might be some of the video that we cut off. Okay, so I have to apologize real quick here. Windows Defender decided to jump in just before I started this video and is sucking up a lot of my resources and causing my fan to really go screaming. So if there's a little bit of background noise, I apologize. And I am going to do a little bit of editing on this because Windows Defender, man, performance just sucks. Microsoft, do better. All right, so we finally got into the end here. We're going to reboot. Let's also make sure that under the machine settings that we're gonna end up disconnecting this here. So we'll see what happens on the reboot because we don't want to start the install process again. All right, so I just disconnected the ISO, so we're just going to reboot. All right, that looks pretty good. We'll get this done in spite of Microsoft. All right, there's our pretty purple boot up line there. Hey, all right. So there we have FreePBX installed, and we've got an IP address that we can browse to. Now, maybe just because you may be doing this yourselves in a virtual environment, where did that address come from? Well, if I look under the tools in my hypervisor, and it doesn't really matter what hypervisor you're using, you got to go to the network settings or the network manager, and you look, in my case, under NAT networks, and I pull up properties to that, I can see down here that I've got a DHCP server running that my hypervisor is actually running. And so that's why VMs on this NAT network get an IP address. All right, friends and neighbors, welcome back. As you can see, I'm wearing a different color shirt because between the time we started the recording and the time we are now, well, I nearly lost my voice, and Windows really threw a shoe over a Kali Linux distribution that I had on my machine and locked everything up. But right now, let's remember what we're doing. We are setting up FreePBX so that we can eventually get some SIP clients. So we have to finish the build even though we have the ISO installed. So without further ado, let's dive in. So of course, here is the FreePBX install. And once you get the ISO install completed, you should get, after you log in, your interface that looks like this. And we can see that this is the IP address, 10.0.2.8. Okay, that is about all that we need from this particular VM, at least at this moment. So let's go ahead and get our web interface up and running. So we'll just do a quick test. As you can see here, just going to see if I can ping the FreePBX box. And now we'll open up Firefox. Now this is just another VM that's going to talk to it. But you can do it with a physical box, your laptop, whatever you want. And we'll put in here 10.02.8. Very good. And so this is the initial configuration for your server. And so I'll just put me down, Bruce, and then we'll need some password. That, apparently my password is so-so, but that's okay. Email address. All right. And that is about all that we're going to do here. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and set up the system. We don't need to save this. And this is the first interface that you're going to be shown. And the thing that we really care about, at least for right now, is FreePBX administration. And I'm just going to log in with the passwords that I just set. And here we are. This is very fun. Now, if we try to activate it, but we have some, we're on a VM, we're behind a hypervisor, and so it wouldn't surprise me at all if this doesn't work right now. So I'm going to abort this. I'm not going to worry about this too much right now because there are things that we'll have to do to get this up and running. Abort, abort, abort. Apparently, it doesn't want to let me abort, so we'll go ahead and make it happy. So there's a little bit behind the scenes here, right? I probably won't include all of this in the recording. Now this is attempting to activate. We've seen this problem before, and that's because the build is not actually complete in some of these installations. All right, so clearly activation doesn't work. That's okay. Go ahead and submit this. Now hopefully yours will go a little bit faster as you're behind, or as I'm behind a NetBox and I'm running virtual machines and I'm taking up a lot of resources. At any rate, what we're going to worry about here is the kind of configuration that we want to build. And so the first place we're going to go down here is to Systems Administration. Now, I don't actually want a firewall right now. I'm going to abort this. And I'm not going to worry about any of these offers that they put forward here. So not now. You can see that we've got a lot more going on here. I don't want any of this. All right, let's not forget to apply our config. But the other thing that we're really concerned with here is the asterisk SIP. Now, about the only thing that I'm going to do right here is ensure that, right, so there's our codecs that we remember. I want to make sure that for my SIP, because some of the clients that I'm going to use will want to connect via TCP. So we'll go over here and we'll say, listen, I want to allow TCP. And just for that matter, we can go ahead and allow TLS, although most will use TCP or UDP. Submit that. Apply the config. Well, this build, there's a lot going on under the hood here. So this build is apparently going a lot better. They're doing some installs behind here. So I'm going to go ahead and try to install a couple SIP extensions. And I'll add the same ones that I did last time just to sort of be consistent here. Now, these are our little question marks are actually kind of handy here, but there's not too much we have to do. We'll go 475.0.0.0.1, and our display name will be Adama. Okay, so we don't actually need to change. These are called, the IDs that we might be using. We'll just be consistent all the way down, and no reason to use a custom username, and we'll submit. Remember that what we're trying to do is just sort of get initial SIP functionality up and running here. And so what you should see is that you've got your new SIP user in there. Now, if I was going to use this PBX for other things, now this is a virtual machine and it has access to hardware on the machine, on the host machine, but right, I've got a number of different kinds of extensions that I might install here, but it doesn't make any sense to have non-VoIP extensions here because I don't have a card like this one. This is actually a telephony card. It's got 4 telephone lines in it. And we can see, actually looking at the card, there are 4 circuits here. So I would put this in a PCIe slot in the box, and then I would be able to do traditional telephone lines. But of course, that's not what we're doing here. We're after SIP connections. And so just for fun, we'll do another connection or another extension. I don't remember what they were before, but we'll just use that one. Now you could do a separate secret here. So there's a little bit of flexibility in the system. We're not going to worry about that right now. Next time when we do clients actually connecting, we'll go over a little bit more detail about some of these things. Submit. We'll apply. Now, the last thing that I want to show you before we leave this build is what I was having so much trouble with in the first build. And I'll just show you what that's about. That's with something we call module admin. Where'd it go? There we go. Now, Asterisk comes with a bunch of modules. Some of the modules are needed when you do your basic SIP server. And a lot of them in the first install that I did were not built in. But you can see these are all the modules that are here. Now, depending on the kind of install that you do, right, these modules will or will not be there. So some of them you can correct in the FreePBX command line interface. Some of them you can correct right here. But as you can see, in this particular build, there was a lot going on under the hood that made the install take a lot longer, but it appears that it solved all the errors for me in this particular build. But if you have errors that are being thrown or you can't do the extensions or the SIP configurations, go to Module Admin, make sure you have standards selected, and then see what modules may or may not be installed.
You can take a look at individual modules here, and then you can update, you can install, you can uninstall if they're problem modules. So this is where you would handle all of that. So that's what a lot of the screenshots were for from before. So just as a reminder, we just completed the FreePBX build, but what we're going to do next time is we'll do a bunch of soft clients, and time permitting, we'll flash a SIP phone or a Cisco phone to SIP. We may have to do that in a couple of months. All right, so this has been a FreePBX real-time build. It's been a lot of fun because Windows really threw a shoe. I had a Kali Linux ISO on my machine, and Windows reported that I had more than 300 viruses on my machine, and it threw the CPU and my memory into a tizzy with the anti-malware executable sucking up all of my resources. It was unbelievable. And then I lost my voice, so there we go. So we're going to do some clients. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if this helps, and I'll see you in the next one. And oh, by the way, may all those packets, may all your packets reach their destinations, even if Windows is fighting with you to keep them from going anywhere.